Hey there, Scribe. Sarah here, and welcome to today's episode of the Write Podcast. I'm so glad you're here and spending this time with me. Because you are here, that tells me that you're a writer. Whether you're dreaming of becoming one or you've just started penning your first novel, or maybe you've already written and published a dozen novels, you are a writer and you're in the right place. This show was made for you, my friend. Back in 2017, when I was preparing to release my first novel, I made a big decision. I started my own publishing company so I could independently publish my books. What I didn't expect was how quickly those books would take off and how many fellow authors would start asking me how I did it and whether I could help them do the same. That's when I began coaching other writers through the self-publishing and marketing process. Fast forward to today, Serenade Publishing has grown into a boutique publishing house representing a range of talented fiction authors under my imprint. Now, I genuinely love the business side of publishing, watching trends, testing strategies, and finding new ways to get great stories into readers' hands. But I also know this side of things isn't every writer's cup of tea. It can feel overwhelming and, let's face it, it's time consuming and not always as fun as writing. That's why I treasure working with authors like today's guest. Tanya Renee submitted her novel Prairie Sky to Serenade Publishing over 2 years ago, and since then we've released a new book together every 3 months. She's a powerhouse small town romance author, and I can't wait for you to hear more about her journey. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Tanya Renee. I'm super excited to be talking to you all the way from Manitoba, Canada. Welcome to the Write Podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
Fantastic. So, for the people watching who don't know, Tanya is actually one of my authors. She was one of the very initial ones, actually, who we acquired. What was that, 2 years ago now?
Yes, just over 2 years ago. It was a very exciting day at our
Yes.
house.
Awesome. So let's talk about how you came to be a writer. Share a bit of your story and how you came to be where you are today.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My story really started when I was quite young, actually. I had always been a big reader, loved poetry. I kind of got introduced to poetry when I was in and around fifth grade, so 10, 11 years old. And I kind of very early on became obsessed with William Shakespeare. And I know that sounds really strange being that young and, falling in love with something as like William Shakespeare. It definitely was one of those things that the librarian even asked me, do you understand this? Because I kept taking out Romeo and Juliet from the library. But I read it over and over and over again and really fell in love with the prose. I fell in love with, the way he worded things. And for me, that sort of began everything. From then on, I started carrying around a notebook, writing my thoughts, writing ideas. I wrote my own poetry. I did that for years. I basically carried around a notebook, and I still carry around a notebook with me pretty much everywhere I go. And I really started writing poetry when I was 12. And from there, I had a little writing club in school. We actually wrote romance novels in high school. Those are quite entertaining to read now. And I just always kind of knew I was going to write at some point in my life. I just didn't know when. And I literally waited 30 years from the time I declared that, yes, someday I was going to do this, to when I actually wrote my first novel, Prairie Sky. And initially, when I wrote Prairie Sky, it was just to prove to myself that I could do it. I had never written something of that length. I had never written a full novel. And for me, it was really important to write that story. It was a story that had been in my head for about 2 years. It was inspired by the sale of my family farm. So if you've read that novel, you know that there's a whole background story about a family legacy and this family farm. And that was all triggered from the sale of my family farm. So for me, it was a really important story to write. If there's any character that I've ever written who is me, it's Ever Walton, because there's a lot of I don't know if this is the right word, but there's a lot of similarities to her story that are my story.
Mm-hmm.
The way she felt at the time was how I was feeling, feeling like I couldn't create. I didn't know where to begin. Mm-hmm. And that's how I felt before I wrote that book. So for me, that was a really, really important book to put out into the world. And I'm so glad that it was my first because it is so deeply personal. So, yeah. So, and
that is such a common thing with the first novel as well. I know mine was the same. The main character, Megan, and mine is so much like me. And I think that is because we know ourselves, obviously, more than anyone else. It's so easy to pull on those personal experiences and thoughts. So absolutely. I always feel like that first book, you never beat that first book. That first book is really baby.
Yeah, it really is your baby. And for me, I've even thought about at times going back because I know how much my writing has improved since writing that first novel. I've thought about going back and rewriting it now. And part of me doesn't want to touch it because it just feels like a bit of a time capsule from that period of my life. And it really is special to me. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to. Maybe I will someday. But yeah, it definitely, that story is a very, very personal story. So
it's a beautiful story. Prairie Sky is the first book that we acquired at Serenade Publishing, which we love. And I've even got a copy of the cover right here. So we do love
so
this.
Beautiful.
Yes. Now, I just want to ask on a personal question, our stories are so similar. You're in Canada, I'm in Australia. We both grew up on farms. I grew up on a farm in New Zealand. You grew up on a farm over there. So, but something that when you were saying this, you wanted to be a writer at a young age, which was the same for me. So I was 14 when I read a romance novel that my aunt was giving away. And obviously she had never read this novel, or she would not have given it to me because it was pretty, pretty smutty for back then, for the 90s. So for me, it was making that decision at 14 that I was going to be a writer, and anything else that I did was just going to be to make money, to survive, and to get to the point where I had enough experience and enough time that I could become a full-time writer. Did you ever feel like you wanted to study writing and go straight into it? Or did you kind of have that, you can't really make money being a writer?
You know what? That never actually crossed my mind at all. For me, I think I knew in the back of my mind that I would always be a writer at some point. I just feel like my life just wasn't in a place where I could do it. And I feel like now, I mean, I'm well into my 40s and I feel like I'm in that right place now. I feel like I have lived a really full and it may not be that extraordinary to some people, but I feel like I have lived an extraordinary life. So I do feel like I do have a lot of stories to tell. And I feel like now I very much feel like that first novel was the floodgates opening, and now it's just all coming out.
Yeah.
So like they've all been there. They've all been like sitting there in wait, and now they're all just coming out. So for me, that I don't think it was ever about money. And even now it's not, for me, it's not about money. It's more about being able to tell those stories that are important to me, bringing characters that are super relatable. And that's one thing that as I've gone along and I've acquired readers and, loyalty to the series, where I've gotten that feedback where they've said like my characters are so relatable and they can understand them or they see themselves in them. And that is so rewarding. Yeah. So for me, I write because I am passionate about it. I love it. I don't write for any other reason other than that. I also started writing a little bit kind of selfishly because, again, I wanted to prove it to myself. But I also want to show my kids that if you have a dream, you have to pursue it. And my son just graduated from high school, and I'm seeing him to going on to another phase in his life. And I really wanted him to know that if there's a dream that you have, you know what? It doesn't matter when you decide to do this. You need to do this. You cannot leave that unrequited.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't leave it, just completely there and not try.
Yeah, I love that.
Fail.
I love that. It's exactly the same with me. I published my first book when my oldest son was maybe 6. But it was the same sort of thing. It was that, dreams can come true. That's literally what I wrote in his dedication in that first book, The Brothers Brigadier Station. Dreams can come true. And it is one of those things I've deeply instilled in my kids, is that you can do anything you want. It's going to take some hard work. It's going to take a learning curve.
Yes.
But absolutely, it is something that you should definitely strive to do if you feel so deeply empowered and passionate, like you obviously do. And having now read, oh my gosh, I'm editing one of your novels at the moment. I don't even know what count we're up to. What is that? 6, 7, 8? I think this is the 8th book that I'm doing.
This is the 8th, yes.
And your writing has come so far. It's beautiful. You were a fantastic writer to start with.
Oh, thank you.
An obvious storyteller, a born natural storyteller. You could just see that from the very first line. And to see how far you've come and how much effort you've put into learning the craft and everything is just amazing. In this current book, I was almost in tears last night. There was a part, and it was really beautiful. And so I can't wait to finish sharing these stories. So Prairie Sky is part of the Primrose series, which is set in Manitoba, in Primrose, Manitoba. So is Primrose inspired by where you live?
Yes, actually, it very much is. So I currently live in a small city, about 20 minutes from where I grew up, my hometown. And Primrose is actually based, the way I describe it, with the feed mill in the middle of the town and, the different businesses. It is based on the town that I grew up in, which is Landmark, Manitoba, originally called Prairie Rose. So that's what inspired the Prairie. That's what inspired Primrose, and a future book, as you know. But it definitely, every time I write a scene, I'm thinking about where it is in that town. So it very much has been inspired by that. Landmark is the closest town to the center of Canada. So I talk about that a fair bit. And and then there's St. Augustine too, which is a fictional city. And that is where I currently live. Yeah. So Steinbach is St. Augustine in my mind, my little universe. So
that's good to know, because I did think St. Augustine was a real place. I was like, oh. So I do have to ask though, do you have a bakery in your real town that does this? Oh my God, there's no cinnamon buns. Come on.
Right? Well, I actually make the orgasmic Primrose cinnamon buns myself. So I originally put that in the book as a little bit of a joke, just as something that I found funny and humorous, because every time I would make these cinnamon buns, when we have guests over or people down, they would always go, "Oh my gosh, they're so good, they're orgasmic." So for me, I just made it sort of this a small town aphrodisiac, if that's right. So, like if somebody gives you a Primrose cinnamon bun, there's a little bit more meaning behind it.
Yes, that's it. So, I love it. You're definitely going to have to send me the recipe. I'm not going to say
I will send it to you. Yeah.
I am nowhere near as good as a cook as you are. I'm not great in the kitchen. But yeah, I every time I walk past Cinnabon, we've just got our first Cinnabon in Sunshine Coast. So every time I walk past, I just go, "Oh, Prairie Sky, Prairie." Tanya, I think of Tanya. So,
Yeah.
oh, fantastic. So you with Prairie Sky, it's a small town romance. So
Yeah.
what I love about small town romances, so I write small town romances. I've set them in Mullaney, in my small town here where I live. I've set them in a fictional small town in America near Tennessee. You're setting them in Canada. You know, there's other authors who set them in Canada, like Elsie Silver
Mhm.
and others like that. And I always feel like it doesn't matter. It's one of these beautiful things. It doesn't matter specifically what country it's set in. They all have the basic, you know, beautiful community,
Yeah.
gorgeous little shops and people. And I love that that's almost, you know, one of those, yeah, it doesn't matter where it's set. You always feel like you're coming home. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I,
for me, I very much when I decided that I was going to write this book, for
mm,
me, it started out just wanting to write it in the setting of that farm.
mm,
But I also knew that there needed to be more. And I know for myself growing up, because that book has so much Easter eggs as to my childhood and, you know, how I grew up and all of that. And of course, our family farm, we grew up about 4 miles from Landmark, from this, you know, prairie town. And for me, I wanted to bring that prairie town and have it almost be its own character.
mhm,
So, which I love. And the greatest thing about small towns that I find that lends itself so well to series writing is the fact that everybody knows everybody. And you can intertwine stories and have people dip in and out of each other's stories. Because I really, very much feel like the whole Primrose series, each book can stand alone on its own, but if you start from the beginning and you keep going, you get the best experience because you get to know the people. You
mhm.
start to feel like you're a member of this community, you know? So for me, that was really important to write. And it was very, very important for me to write about small town Manitoba.
Mhm.
I have never seen another book about small town Manitoba, and I think we are so underrated because it is such a beautiful place to live, and it you never see it in a romance novel. You would never think, you know. So, and I think that for me too has been. Has drawn a lot of readers to the series, especially around here, because they've never seen people they know and themselves and you know environments that they know in these books.
Mhm.
So I think that that's been really special. So
Yeah.
yeah, and this community, my community, has really embraced it, which
Yes.
has been really amazing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. You've got your books into a lot of the local bookshops
Yes.
and
Yes.
other sorts of shops as well, gift shops and those
Yeah,
sorts
I'm working on it. I'm
of
working on it.
yeah.
It's a process. It's definitely a process. I'm working right now to try to get it into some of the more mainstream bookstores. I've gotten it into quite a few independent bookstores in Western Canada, which has been really good, like a whole handful, and a couple online bookstores, which is great. But it is a process. But again, you know, it is still your writing, but it is a business too, so you are treating it that way, and you are, you know, wanting to get exposure, so you are, you know, having to put yourself out there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, it's a slow process, but I mean, I'm only 2 years in.
Yeah.
Well, we 1 year into publishing, like being published, so I feel like I'm doing pretty good. So
Yeah, absolutely. We've
yeah,
currently got you every 3 months, and sometimes more than I know at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got one. It feels like there's one every couple of weeks, actually, by the end of the
Pretty much. This has been a crazy year, but it's been so exciting though. I have to say it's been really fun, and having the two series that I'm writing come out simultaneously has been a lot, but I've also felt like I was ready for the challenge. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's going well. So
Yeah.
hopefully.
Well, let's talk about the other series. So
Yeah.
the other series, we've got Finding Direction here. So this was the
Yes.
first one that came out earlier this year. I can't remember what month.
In May.
So May, there we go.
Yeah.
That one, the second one is about to come out,
Yes.
and then the third one will be another 3 months after that.
Yeah, in October. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with Finding Direction, we're still working into the Primrose
Yes.
township. So I love how, even though it's a different series, we are still revisiting like Dee. We
Yeah.
revisit her and the other characters in the town. So yeah, like you were saying, all of your books, you can jump in anywhere. You know, if a reader just adores that cover for Prairie Rain, for example, they can
Yeah.
definitely jump in there. You're not going to find out, cliffhangers or spoilers or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Definitely.
It is. It's just like coming home and catching up with friends. That's what I really love. They're escapist romances. There are some hard issues, absolutely, but at the end of the day, the people are following their hearts and doing what they need to do to make a relationship work. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's what the world needs right now. We love our happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel really strongly about it too, because I know I myself enjoy listening to audiobooks and to romance, and I find it's an escape for me. So that's what I want to give a reader. I want them to give an escape. And like you said, and I love the way you said it, it feels like, you're coming back to the people
Mhm.
each time, every time you read a new book from that series. So, and that's really how it feels for me as a writer too. When every time I bring these characters back together, I just feel like, I'm visiting them again, and yeah, and it just feels so right, just to have them be so involved in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And as you said, there are hard issues. There are things that I dive into in my books. I'm not afraid to do that at all.
Mhm.
I really want to show not only the beautiful, but the ugly that
Mhm.
can happen, not only within ourselves, but also, not everything is perfect.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I really want people to see that, because I feel that makes it more authentic and real.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And that's really, really important to me. So I take a lot of time, especially when I dive into certain topics, like in this new book, Love Notes. I don't know if you're going to introduce Love Notes or not, but yeah, in Love Notes, the main female character, she deals with depression and anxiety, feelings of inadequacy.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to show her vulnerability, because I think that you don't necessarily always see enough of that.
Mhm.
It can't just be all perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the end, everybody needs their happily ever after, and there's a perfect person for every single person out there, but not everybody is perfect.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you need
nobody
to show
is.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody
exactly.
is. And that's what makes your characters so beautiful and
Yeah,
relatable. Because if they were perfect, we don't want to read about perfect
I
people.
know.
That'll make us
Yeah,
feel really bad about ourselves.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So yeah, they do. They need to have flaws. There need to be yeah, misunderstandings and taken the wrong way and all of
Yeah,
those sorts of things because we are human, and at the end of the day, being human is a beautiful thing. And we're
absolutely.
constantly learning and growing. So, and that is, yeah, why it's so beautiful to have characters that reflect the human experience. So, yeah, I think you've done that beautifully. Have you ever thought about writing a standalone?
I have. I
Yeah.
actually have an idea.
But as your
You will be
publisher, I'm
hearing
going
from
to
me
tell
soon.
you not to.
Um,
So I'm going to be saying, where's the sequel?
Um, I have about 4 or 5 different series that I'm planning, that sort of branch off of Primrose, branch off of another series that may be coming out next year. I'm not sure, but I do have a whole bunch of different ideas. But I do have a standalone that has been kind of the way Prairie Sky kind of niggled in my head. This one is there, and it keeps coming back up, and it keeps making itself known, and it keeps speaking to me and telling me to write it. So I feel very strongly that I will be writing it at some point. I'm not sure if it'll fall under romance or women's fiction, but I think it may lean more towards the fiction side. But I definitely feel like it's a story that needs to be written. So it's there.
No, that is fantastic. And so let's talk about your publishing path, how you got here. So obviously, I remember a couple of years ago when you submitted to me the first time that I opened submissions. They're not open anymore, guys. I'm full. But yeah, you, from the very first sentence, from the very first cover letter, you just nailed everything. I just felt like you were someone I could work with. And I think as a publisher, I've had so many authors over the years, and some of them are easier to work with than others. Some of them, even though the stories may be really good, it really comes down to me and my team spend a lot of time in your universe as well. We're editing, we're publishing, we're cover designing, formatting, all of those things. So if we find an author that is going to be easy to work with, and I mean easy, like not just letting us run all over them. I don't expect that. I ask you a lot, and you know this. I ask.
Yeah, and I'm opinionated.
Yeah, and I want to know, what do you think we should put on the cover? What do you think the blurb should read? And I love having a very collaborative relationship with my authors. And I know there are publishing houses out there that say, just, we've paid you the money, shut up now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, that works for some people. I'm not going to knock any other publishing house. They're beautiful and we need them. But yeah, I love this relationship as a boutique publisher where I don't need a lot of authors, because I have people like you who publish every 3 months. So I can focus in on really working with you to make the book the absolute best. And it's my priority. Every time your book comes out, it's my priority. Then the next book comes out and they're my priority. So I think we've got a beautiful relationship. I know every time.
We do, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not scared to read your emails. So it's like, oh, Tanya sent me one. What's she going to say today? So So how has that been from your side? Is there anything that you've? I really don't want you to say yes to this, but is there anything that you've been disappointed about, or anything, or have you felt like you've been able to come to me and talk to me?
Yeah, I definitely have felt that way. I feel like when I decided that, yes, I was going to put this story out there in the world, because trust me, this was scary. This was big time scary for me. I had literally never shared one of my stories with anybody since like high school, when it was like a English assignment. I had never shared anything. Even my poetry, I didn't share that with people. That was personal. I wouldn't, pass it on to other people. So it was really special when I decided that I was going to put it out there. And I had made a list of people that I thought would be a good fit for what I had written. And I actually started out first looking for an agent. That was my first initial thing that I had started doing, because through research, I had no idea what I was doing, by the way. I mean, Google is a wonderful thing. That's all I will say. Google really helped me a lot. But I didn't even know what a query letter was. Like, I'm not even kidding. And a synopsis, I'm like, what's a synopsis? I don't know what that is, So I did a lot of research to try to figure it all out. And then I initially went and looked for an agent. So I queried 89 agents. And I did get, this is even before I sent submission to you. I did get a couple bites, a couple people asking me for more. And that was very validating at that point. So that was all I needed. I just needed one person to say, hey, this is like somewhat good, let's just, see if this, can go any further. And then I actually saw, you do very good marketing. I saw an ad on Facebook for Serenade Publishing, and I had already had you on a short list of publishers that I thought would be a good fit. And you just stood out. And I remember I even have the list and I circled it. And I went, okay. And then that's when I dove into reading up about the publishing houses and stuff like that. And one thing I loved was that you were a boutique publisher. I loved that you really were dedicated to the craft of writing. I really loved that you really were focused on new writers and helping them and nurturing them and just everything about what you were presenting out there to me just spoke to me, and your story too. I mean, I was that girl that snuck my mom's, Harlequin romances from the stack in the basement, like, and she didn't know I was reading them when I was 14. So like your whole story just like related to me so much that you just right away went to the top of my list. And when I decided to, and this was literally me being bold on a Friday night, I decided I was going to send out to 3 different publishers, a very big publisher, like a top 5. And then I was going to send it out to one where I thought their website was cool and fun and stuff like that. And then I'm like, I'm going to send it out to Serenade because I just felt like something was telling me I need to send this out to you. And then 3 weeks later, you sent me a email back letting me know that, yes, you thought that it was a good fit. I literally cried, squealed, did every emotion all in one. And then I sent you more. And I waited for about 5 weeks. And it was and I'm very impatient. It's not one of my virtues. Patience is not a virtue for me. And I waited and waited and waited. And then it was literally 6 months to the day from when I sat down to write Prairie Sky to when you sent me the contract that you said that you wanted it. And I think I cried for like an entire week. Just because I think for me, it was an unrequited dream. So it was really special. And I feel like I found my home with you, which I think is so important because I feel like there's a lot of like stories about other publishing houses. And I never feel like I'm not valued. Or I never feel taken advantage of in any way, shape, or form. I always feel like you've got my best interests at heart. And I think that that's so important. So, I mean, I could go out there and look for an agent again. I could do all these different things. But for me, I just feel like I'm in the right place at the right time with the right people behind me. And you're at the head of that. So I'm just so grateful every day for that.
Oh, I'm so grateful. I am a big believer in...
I get emotional. Sorry.
No, I love it. Thank you. I'm a big believer in the universe and fate. And
absolutely,
I always am very instinct-based. And so when I read something and I can straight away kind of pick if I want to work with this person, if there's something that's got potential. But I really feel like the universe brought us together,
Absolutely.
Out of that post on Facebook, I think it probably was. I got a lot of responses, but out of those, there were only a couple of people really that I felt this. Yes, this one's onto something. This is, you reminded me of me, my story, what I write, and I've been successful publishing these sorts of small town romances, so I know how to do it, whereas other people bought me other sorts of novels over the years, and I've gone, I'm not feeling it. I think you would be better somewhere else, that sort of thing. And so I do love that. I find it even with my retreats, like I'm hosting a retreat in Queenstown in New Zealand next year. And all the people who are applying that I'm talking to, I can tell straight away within like 5 minutes whether they're a good fit, whether they're going to bring the right energy to that group. Or whether they're not. And then we have that conversation. And it happened the last time in Bali as well. It was the same thing. It was the perfect group of people there at the perfect time that made that group dynamic really work.
Yeah.
I think even within the Serenade family, there are definitely, we have kind of formed that relationship where we're all feeding and helping each other and
Yes.
reading each other's books and supporting and I think it's what I want. I want the community. I think, you're in Canada, I'm in Australia, I've got another authors in England and the States, and we all just bring it home in that support and community and the love and respect we all have for each other and
Absolutely.
the rest of the team.
Yeah, and it does feel like a family.
Yeah.
You really have like made it feel like a family for all of us, which I think is so special because I don't feel like everybody gets that.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that that's so important. And I mean, there's so many things that you do, with your online courses and with, your teaching and really trying to help people master the craft of writing. And it really is a craft and it is a skill that you hone the more you do it, and I think that's something that I personally have realized just seeing where I've gone from writing that first novel to now. And I just feel like every time it just gets better and better and better. And I feel so much more confident as a writer too, which I think is so good when you have, people on a team behind you who are instilling that confidence in you. I think that's so important. So yeah, and you definitely do that. So
thank you so much. Well, I am excited to continue publishing, to continue seeing these beautiful books come out of you. I'm absolutely loving it. I know I told you a few months ago that I wanted you to chuck in a couple of Christmas romance novels. It's like
I started it last night.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to continue this relationship with you and one day to actually be able to meet you in person and give you a hug.
That would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Tanya. I really appreciate it. And let's quickly ask, do you have any advice for writers? One thing that you want people to go away with today, one piece of advice?
Okay, well, I'll try to keep it down to one.
Okay.
But the first one is, you know what? You just have to write the damn book. I posted that on my social media today because I feel like people just overthink everything. And I know I did. It took me 5 or 6 times sitting down at my laptop before the words finally got out because I didn't need to have it perfectly plotted and perfectly outlined in order to be able to write it. I just needed to write it. I needed to tell myself that story. So that is a very big piece of advice I want to give, especially new authors. Don't be afraid to put your words out there into the world. You have a story. You need to share it. You will have people that will want to read it. You need to just bite the bullet and go for it.
Yes.
Because it's never too late to go for those kinds of things and go for that, like I called it, an unrequited dream, like it's one of those things that you just have to actually work for it, and actually do it.
Absolutely.
And not be afraid. And I mean, I know this is 2 pieces of advice here, but don't be afraid to fail. Because you will get knocked down. Like I said, I put it out to 89 agents. I put it out. I got, rejected by publishing houses. It happens, and don't let that derail you.
Yeah.
If that story is in your head and you feel like it needs to be written, write it. Absolutely. Put it out there and just take that no as a next opportunity.
Yes.
So
yes.
Because you're going to hear no's and you're going to have people tell you that, it isn't good enough. But if you know in your heart that it's good enough, it is. Yeah. So just keep going. Yeah.
And you know what? Every no is one step closer to the yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely don't stop writing.
Absolutely. All right. So here it is, Prairie Sky. This one is free on ebook. So Kindle, Amazon, Kobo, Google, Apple, and Barnes & Noble, and all the others free as an ebook. You can grab that straight away and dive into the beautiful Primrose series. Finding Direction is the band series where it's all
So with
about
the
rock
band,
with
yes.
the band series. So this one is also out and will be a 3-book series. So thank you so much for all your writing, your creativity, your beautiful words today that you've shared. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to keep reading your books and see what magic we make between us.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much for having me here today. And again, thank you for everything that you do. You really do inspire us as well. So,
Thank you so much, Tanya.
yeah.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Tanya Renee as much as I did. It's always inspiring to hear from authors who are not only writing consistently, but also finding joy in the process and connecting with their readers in such a meaningful way. If Tanya's story lit a spark for you, whether it's about writing more regularly, building your author brand, or simply believing in your journey, then I encourage you to take that next step. And remember, if you're looking for guidance on your own publishing path, you'll find plenty of support and resources at serenadepublishing.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep writing, keep dreaming, and keep putting your beautiful words into the world.